What is up, guys? You're tuning into this Okiru podcast. I'm your co-host, Jasper, and we thank you so much for spending this time with us. We hope you enjoy this episode. Make sure to follow us on our socials at Okiru on Instagram, Okiru on Facebook, Okiru on YouTube, and also Okiru on major platforms such as Spotify and Apple Music. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. We hope you enjoy.
All right. Kristy, thanks for having us over. Your place is so beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks for coming today. And I'm glad the weather held up for you.
And as I walked in, I'm like, wow, this is the pinnacle of share housing.
What do you mean?
Because you're sharing your house with a housemate, and I'm just like, well, I've been to some dubious share houses as well.
I'm a big believer in a house as a home, right? And it's not ever going to be like a share house. So when you live with me, it's like family. So in this environment, it's not, someone down in their bedroom with all their stuff. It's very much like it's the home that you choose. Yeah, so I've built it so that we've got all our little zones and stuff, and then the bedroom's more like just a sanctuary at the end. But yeah, pockets of joy.
It's a joy.
Throughout the house.
That's beautiful.
So, and the way you decorate, and look, we can see a beautiful alcohol shelf here and your bookshelf. I really want to share the bookshelf with our viewers and our listeners as well, because it's a joy to look at.
Yeah.
Right? Marie Kondo, have you done any of her work? Or
Yeah. That was actually one of the first books I read in terms of organizing. And yeah, my goodness, I actually did the whole proper method back in New Zealand, and it took me a long time. And at one point, someone came over and they were like, do you need to see someone? It's like a hoarding thing, because you take everything out and you put it all in spaces and then choose. Well, I literally did that, and it looks like a hoarder's home because I had everything on the floor all over the house. But what it looks like at the end is like this, because you say goodbye to something, you choose to keep something, you choose to donate. But because I organized everything properly for the first time ever, it did look quite, it's like the whole method can look quite scary if you do it properly.
But you brought all your stuff over. You brought your cat Princess over from New Zealand. You bought a whole container.
I bought a container over. I had to pack what was going to fit in it. And that's what I have here. But it's a lot of the things, you buy new. When you get here, I would never recommend bringing a washing machine or a dryer again, because they smell a certain way when you open the boxes up after being on a container ship. Yeah.
So how I know Kristy is she is a colleague of mine at Prezi, where, look, I just left the organization, but I think we developed such a connection over the time, and it was Kristy's first few days, our first drinks, and I hogged her. We were talking about habits at the same time, and Kristy is a habits coach, and you've got your own business where you've coached over 700 people from around the world.
Yep, that's right. Over 30 countries, yeah. I'm not a huge fan of the word coaching, but no, just because everyone's a coach now, right? Yeah. But I would say it's more like strategy and, and like, but it is coaching, I guess, at the end of the day. But
everybody is a coach now.
Everyone is a coach.
Everyone's a coach, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's because that people like Tony Robbins and stuff like that, they've developed this industry of I think it's self-education industry, right? Yeah. And that's what we're kind of doing, right? We're, in a sense, coaching people through the podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
By sharing people's stories. Yeah. And we're lucky to have Kristy here today.
That's one of the things that you actually learn. People learn best through stories.
Right.
Yeah. When you have you let things in, ideas in that maybe don't have your walls up. Yeah. So it totally makes sense to me. Yeah. People learn best by feeling good and learn best through stories.
Definitely.
So why don't you like the word coach?
How did you
develop over the years?
I feel like a coach suggests that I might not be learning as much from them as they're learning from me. Whereas every person in an interaction and an exchange between two people, it's not like I'm giving you here. It's going to be it's a whole like give and take of energy, right? A giving and sharing of energy, and they have an aha moment, then you have one back. Yeah. And it's very much like that. So I feel like there's something lacking in the word coaching, because it's more like feels like more like one person telling the other one. Right. I'm not sure. I can't quite articulate what it is, but it's different when you're in a moment with someone rather than being over here and telling them information.
Yeah.
And that's very much what I'll do. I'm like going to be sitting in the trenches with you, whatever it is, and we are a team as opposed to me sharing all my amazing ideas or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
That's probably it.
So it goes both ways.
It goes back. It's literally a give and take of, I imagine if I could see energy of this going through the air backwards and forth. Yeah.
So coaching just is
Oh, well, that's my opinion. Probably not for everyone. I imagine if when you coaching, I took my brothers when they were younger to rugby practice, and a coach was very much on the sideline, not in the game. You know, you. She's thinking about where to go next. Yeah.
Where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna go?
Look at her go. So athletic.
Look at that. Watermelon.
So one of the highlights of that conversation that first time, you told me about waking up, and we part of the Okiru family, we've been doing this campaign called Early Risers, where we made an effort to wake up early to create more time in our day, and we tried our best to join that 5 a.m. club, right? And some of the things that you shared with me, Kristy, was getting out of bed and then putting your arms up in the air and saying, yes,
Yep.
this is how I'm going to start my day.
Yep. It's one of the ones, it's one of the methods. Dr. BJ Fogg, it comes from Tiny Habits, and I think he's done a research study with like more than 60,000 people in that particular habit, and there's a TED talk on it. And it's a version of the Maui habit, which is after my feet touch the floor, I will jump out of bed and say, it's going to be a great day or amazing day. And usually, like, you know, you have expression through movement. So you'll do some sort of celebration, like it might be a fist pump or like I like to do a small dance on the spot. Just get moving. But but pretty much when you declare it's going to be a great day, then that's how the day can show up. And the reason why I like this one so much in terms of families, you can, if you've got younger children around, other family members sharing in a home, you can enroll everyone into the household to do it. And so then you can go into the kids' bedroom and say to them maybe like, what kind of day is it going to be? And they're like, a great day, you know, and it's like, even if you're not feeling it and it doesn't feel real yet, having someone else in your household who does that with you really shifts that energy around. So I really like it in terms of something you can do in a group dynamic. It doesn't have to be whatever the family looks like. It could be housemates or, or traditional family, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, definitely. I was doing a similar practice when I was going through my growth stage, and I was reading a book. You probably would have heard of her, Mel Robbins. She did the book High Five Habit. And I was doing that habit of just like waking up and just high-fiving yourself in the mirror. And it just does something in your brain that just says like, you just adds positivity, you know, and it's like good vibes. Cause it's like the action of doing a high five, she says that it's impossible to think of a negative thought because whenever you're doing a high five, it's always to congratulate someone, to just, you know, just celebrate something.
Definitely.
No.
I haven't read that book, but I've read her 5 second rule.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
Obviously a long time ago, but I totally agree with that. Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff in terms of when you move your body around, if you notice like what depression looks like or what energy looks like, one of them is usually going to be moving, one of them is going to be slumped still. So like there's something in movement too that really helps.
Definitely.
How was early risers for you, Gerald? I know when you woke up, you like to go outside and take a walk or take a picture with it's winter, right? And we're emerging from winter now, but the skies were dark in your photos all the time.
It was really difficult at the start, like with anything you start with, like, but it was just that slow progression of just waking up from 9 o'clock to 8:50 to 8, like it was like really slow. But the one reason I was going outside is like I'll go from my bed straight to my computer, and I'm just like, this is not good. So instead, I'll just go outside, have a walk, and I found myself, you know, starting the day with not so much distractions and just be like, okay, nice. It's like just pleasant. It's just pleasant. So yeah.
In terms of habit coaching, how that might look if someone was looking to shift something like that, if they're like, okay, how do I go from like the gradual progression backwards in time, but also starting any kind of like walking practice or whatever, it could be as simple as I'm going to go out to the letterbox and back, and that's all I have to do. That is enough. And if I keep going, then that's extra credit. But to get started, I only have to make it to the letterbox. And that's enough. So if I feel sick, I'm too tired, I'm grumpy, I'm like, whatever it is, I can still do that minimum part. And then day after day, you start to see yourself as someone who always shows up. And it really makes a huge difference. And you're not, it's not earth shattering. It's totally fine to only go as far as the letterbox and come back. At some point, you're going to go further. It will happen. So that's like those little walking habits. If like someone's looking to implement something like that, but it seems overwhelming, that's where to start.
I think that was one of the things that I did wrong at the very beginning. Is like, I'm gonna go hardcore on this, and I'm gonna run. Like I started running around the block, and the next I was like, yeah, cool, I did. I felt good that day because I was like, oh, I achieved this, I ran. But the next day, I'm like, I don't really want to run. So I just walked, and I was like, it was just like around the block or something like that. But it was slowly, you just build it up.
Totally. And there in habits, I'm really glad you mentioned that. Like when you notice your brain or your body, I saw your head moving around like that, noticing those subtle cues around focusing on areas of things that you want to do and things that make you feel good. So if you have an area in your life that comes up and you're trying to form a habit around it, but you don't want to do it, a habit is an automatic behavior. It won't happen. It can't rewire it in if you don't want to do it. Because your body won't allow it. It'll only ever be a practice, something you show up and do, but it won't be a habit. So you can exercise every single day for a whole year and then just not do it and just not do it continually because it's not a habit. If you're not enjoying it and you don't want to do it, you're just forcing yourself. That's a practice. So if you really want to unpack what the two different things are, it's really interesting. So if you have to schedule it in your diary, it's probably not a habit. But habits, things that our practices can turn into habits. But if you want to do them, you have to want to do it. Yeah. So if you want to lose weight, for example, which is not a behavior, it's an aspiration. Again, that's something, because there's no specific metrics around that. I want to get fit, aspiration. I want to lose weight, aspiration. You might do a behavior to achieve those, but if you really don't want to do it, like running, notice the body language on yourself and go, be curious, what do I want to do? And then do those things, because that's where you're going to have the wins. That's where success stuff and those things can turn into habits because you actually want to do them.
So it's interesting from a practice, which is something you have to schedule in and something that takes a lot of effort to become a habit, which is automatic and something that you want to do and your body might crave it.
Habits, so all behavior lives, somewhere on a spectrum of this takes a lot of thinking and a lot of effort right through to I'm doing this completely unconscious. The unconscious behavior is a habit. And that's why we don't actually know. You often don't know what your habits are because 40% approximately, depending on which studies you read, 40 to 60% of behavior is automatic. How can you know if you're doing something if it's automatic? You're literally like your subconscious is controlling that behavior, whereas your conscious mind controls this other highly, executive functioning thinking work. If you want to create habits, you have to first start being conscious around them and working out where you're going to do them in your day. For example, maybe I'll just mention here what behavior is. In terms of, for any behavior to happen, it has to have three things have to happen at the same time: motivation, ability, and a prompt. And by ability, that means you have to be actually capable of doing it. You can't decide, I'm going to go do this thing, but you don't have the skill set. And also able in this moment. So all of a sudden, in that moment where you want to do it, you have to be you can't be like, oh my God, I'm going to go for a run, but I'm driving my car, because I can't actually do this in that moment. A prompt is a trigger or a thing that tells you when to happen. Like when you get a ping notification on your phone, prompt to look at my phone. So we're being prompted by technology all the time. So I don't know about everyone else here, but I just turn all my notifications off for everything. Because otherwise that's what they're doing in terms of a great book to read on that if you ever want to know what they're doing is habit forming products. There's a book on that by Menor. It's great, and it talks about the habit loop that technology companies are creating. If you ever want to know what they're doing, which is super interesting, not around human behavior but around company behavior. And then the motivation, which is a lot of what you'll hear people talk about. You need to get more motivated. I personally think motivation is like a wave. It's like this. It's inconsistent, and you don't know when it's going to show up. But you can create behaviors and create you can create motivation. So if you want to go for an exercise, you have to, you got to think about all the things, all the steps that might have to happen. and make sure you're prepared for them and have motivation, ability, and a prompt. So for example, on that, should I continue on this?
Yeah,
Yes, please.
When after I had an accident and I wanted to start working out again after recovering from this, horrendous accident I had, I was like, I don't know, even from someone who exercised all my life to could barely move my body, I was like, oh my God, it felt so overwhelming to just get started. I was like, where do I even start? I can hardly do anything. So that's when I discovered, the power of habits and going down to the smallest amount. So the 3 things that I did, usually you only ever want to change 3 small things a week at the most, because your brain goes 1, 2, 3, many, and then that's it. So you'd pick 3 things each week, and then you can choose at the end of the week, at least, and then understand that in a week you'll usually have, I like to call them workday routines, or even at home routines, and then at office day routines, and then weekend routines. Like in terms of the behaviors that happen in a sequence, they often change depending on environmental context.
Yeah.
So I make sure that I'm set up, like you're like, oh, why don't I automatically do this on a weekend? It's probably because your whole morning looks different and the behavior sequence is different. So I like to think about choosing for the 5 days that I'm going to be doing my work days and creating habits on those days, and then the weekend it's free time. I can choose to do them or not, or I might have to look to put anchor in at a different point. So when I was looking to start exercising again, the things that I changed was folding up my clothing, which was a one-time behavior, and putting it in a really easy to access place. And instead of having t-shirts, sports bras and leggings in 3 different drawers, I put sets together and I put them in the drawer that was like the closest at the end of my bedroom to like open the drawer, have a whole set, take the whole set out. And so that was a one-time behavior to get set up. And every single night I'd go into my room and I would get out my workout clothes and I'd put them in my bathroom in the morning, and I'd get my shoes and put them in the bathroom. So in the morning when I woke up and I'd go to the bathroom and I'd shut the door and I'd go, oh, there's my clothes, the workout. And then the next behavior, that was one thing I changed. And that was an evening thing for the next day. And the next one was to put my clothing on. So the only behavior that I was going to do that day was to, just to put the workout clothes on. And the third thing I picked for the week was to walk to the letterbox. And then anything else was extra credit. So those were the 3 things, and that is how you can start exercising again. Because you're literally the kind of person who always prepares stuff at night, the kind of person who always puts their clothing on, and the kind of person, no matter the weather, that always gets themselves to the letterbox, and that is enough, and then you can build on from there. And I was like, some days I did go further than the letterbox, but I remember my body was not capable of a lot at that point, and some days I didn't. And that was enough. I wasn't required to do any more. I was still, it was still enough. It's totally enough. And after doing that, I think over that year of changing it, creating a walking routine, I lost 10 kilos.
Wow.
So to give you the outcome or the results that happen, because I showed up for myself consistently for a year, and I wasn't doing strength training, I wasn't doing anything else. Of course, then you kind of maybe go, oh, I'm the kind of person who works out, so now I eat healthier. And so you start to crave more salads or whatever, whatever it is. And then those are whole other behaviors. But as a result of just reframing and your shift in identity and changing those few small things, the results are big. I think it's disproportionate, return on investment in terms of the result there.
So it's 3 things and 3 habits that you want to change.
Well, I would say pick what you can choose. You can have a wish list of all the things you want to change, and then pick only 3 small things per week. And then so choose your 3, like a shopping list. You can have your wish list. You can make it big and brainstorm and have everything you want, like it's Christmas. And I'll have a swimming pool. I have 3 swimming pools. No, I want 3 swimming pools. You can put everything on there.
Yeah.
But then pick whatever's you want, whatever's going to help you. Like the 2 things we always say in behavior design are focus on what makes you feel good and things you want to do and things that you can do. That is where you're going to find success. If it's something you don't actually want to do, it's not the thing to focus on, because there will be something that's fun. Not, for example, exercise. You could go to a dance class. I mean, there's a whole lot of things of getting yourself all the way there. So I like to pick easier things that I can do at home. One of the ones I did was I wanted to stretch. So I have foam rollers here. and I would on a Sunday, I'd have my prep day, my one-time behaviors to set up for those things during the week. And I'd be like, what am I going to do? It's kind of like my shopping list to myself. And one of the ones was stretching, and I was like, oh man, hated stretching. So I bought my foam roller and I stuck it down next to the couch and I put my TV remote on it. And the remote was, and I'd look for the remote and I'd be like, you know, and then I'm like, okay, the rule is now you're just going to roll around on the foam roller, you know, after I find the TV remote. This is always the habit. So after I will is the kind of tiny habit recipe. After I pick out the remote and turn the TV on, I will foam roll for 30 seconds. And then if I keep going, that's fine. That's extra credit. But I'll do my 30 seconds. And if you don't know what 30 seconds looks like, it's basically like 10 like roll, you know, you like this, or how, you know, 10 or 15. It's not a lot, and I got into a really good, oh my god, myofascial rolling now. I love it because it's you know, so good for your body. But you know, putting things in, and that was something that made me laugh, because every time I'd go look for the remote, I'd go, oh, you know, and it would just make me laugh. So and sure enough, at some point during the day, I'm going to put the TV on, and that's when I do it. So I didn't try and do this at 10 o'clock or after breakfast or whatever. It was anchored into a remote. So you don't have to choose a time of day. You can choose a something that makes logical, like things that match up together. That's something else. Like when you're anchoring in, if you're trying to start something new, pick something that you're relatively always going to do on a day and anchor it into that.
Yeah, I really love that type of, like, making the prompt, like, associating with something instead of having your phone remind you, hey, it's time to do something. It's like, not now, snooze or whatever you do. You have it like anchored to like the remote, or even just having like your like clothing, and you see it's like, okay, it's time to
and everything. I always try to make myself laugh. So when I do it, if I see the clothes on the door, I'm like, oh yeah, all right,
Bloody
good.
past Kristy.
I was like this. I was like, this motivated last night, weren't you? like this. I'd be like, miss motivation in the evening. Doesn't know about like grumpy Kristy in the morning, like because that's when I wake up and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. But then I go, actually, I do want to do this because it's going to change my life. And change your life 30 seconds at a time.
Wow. Yeah. Tiny habits. 30 seconds changing your life 30 seconds at a time. But how about pushing the goalposts? So you set the goal, all right, 30 seconds, I'm going to go talk to the mailbox. But then you consistently walk 10 minutes and come back. Where do you shift the goalpost, and how do you make it sustainable? Purely because we tried to join the 5 a.m. club, and then some other things have come in our lives. Buying new houses, being forced to move, things like that, right? And it throws a spanner in the works. And we quickly burnt ourselves out over the 2 months that we tried to pick up this habit. So how do you be kind to yourself? But how do you push yourself to be the person that you want to be at the same time? Yeah,
I really love that. So I would say it's like, again, creating that like on a weekend or something in a really nice state, going outside, getting a big piece of paper and dreaming up all the shopping lists of your life, right? You can scroll it down. Does 5 a.m., getting up at 5 a.m. help you get that list? You know, like, that's the question. That's the only question. If it doesn't help you, if you can do all the things you could do at 5, at 7, get up at 7. Like, I mean, if that's it, because if it is about getting fit, buying the house, going, traveling or whatever, if getting up at 5 a.m. doesn't help those things, then you just have to sort of lovingly let it go for now. Because you can always get back up at 5 another day.
For sure.
And you can do it. Like, it can be, like, there's certain behaviors that I'll pick up for an outcome I'm focused on right now, depending on whatever it is or who I want to be. And the other thing in terms of unpacking how to grow a behavior, if you imagine, like, there's a little plant over there. Actually, the Tiny Habits Academy sent me that plant, funnily enough, for doing some coaching work for them. So they imagine, like, when you're creating a habit, imagine it like putting a seed in the ground, right? And then watching it grow, and then say if you want to make it bigger, you might need to repot it, which means you might need to put it somewhere else in your day. So where you can grow that behavior to something that's natural. So if you're trying to do that walking routine in the morning, but you've actually got kids I know probably your listeners don't have kids, but they've got other commitments that are early, they just don't have the time there. You might have to replant that into another time of day when you have the time to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what you think about, like all behavior sequences, and when you're going to be able to grow them. For me at the moment, I do have time to exercise in the morning, and I make it a priority on weekday mornings, and I do a longer workout on the weekend. And my training's very different, but it might just be evenings. It really depends on what you have, what other things you've got, what's most important, and just bringing curiosity and playfulness to it.
Yeah.
There's so much around when people think of change. I can see a lot of people that I've coached, they bring this real heaviness with them, this weight of the world, because especially if something's been like something for so long and they desperately want it to change, right? So bringing that power back, thinking, I want to change and I can do it now. And what's the smallest thing I can do to just get started, and then repotting it if need to be, putting it somewhere else.
So 700 people over 30 countries. What patterns have you observed beyond geographies, culturally as well?
It's so interesting. So regardless of, even when there's a language barrier, time difference barrier, what I notice is there's an underlying theme, I guess. Two things I notice: a sense of hope across all people, all cultures, and a sense of like fear around, can I do this? Can I really do this? Because I've failed so many times before. A lot of people bringing that with them, and it's heavy. And and then that's what I focus on: joy and laughter. And breaking it down so it's so easy that, like, one woman I worked with, I'm just thinking of her right now. She had failed so many times before. She came almost defeated, when working with me. And I said to her, I can really sense that I'm really present to this energy around that you're not sure that you can do this. And she said, yeah, because the past only tells me that I fail, right? And I'm like, it doesn't matter how many times in this first week with me, you will be successful. And you know how I know? It's because each day that if it doesn't work out exactly how you want, we design these habits and you go to execute them, we're going to ask, is it in the right spot? Was I, am I busy at that time? Do I actually want to do this? And if you don't want to do it, then you're going to pivot and focus on something else. So every single day, it's like, did you do the behavior? And if not, let's unpack that. Like, do I need to move it? Am I trying to do too much? Is it that you've got something else in your life that is a conflict that you didn't realize? Because you can design something and then go to do it, and the execution doesn't work because you haven't thought about all the things that are going on. And I'm like, then you just adjust it and then try the next day. That doesn't quite work, then you adjust it and try the next day. One of them will be the perfect recipe for you, and then you'll go out. And she was like, I haven't seen so much joy by the end of the first week with me. As habits are dailies, you check in every day. I was like, it was like the weight, you can literally see someone look younger, their eyes more sparkly, because I told her she would be successful, and she was. Would you get it perfect first time? I was like, if you do get it perfect the first time when you're designing habits, I'm surprised, because usually always there's something you haven't thought about in your environment, or a conflict, or something that's going to come up, and that's life and learning, and all the growth lives there. So I think there is no failure. There's only just needing to pivot and adjust, and learning moments that need to happen each day. A failure just means that something needs to be tweaked, usually in terms of habits.
Wow.
It's fun.
I'm just like
In awe.
in awe, just learning so many things about these habits, and I don't know what to say. But
Are you trying to learn any habits or trying to pick up any habits at the moment,
me
Jasper?
personally, not really, but my partner is. And we were having a conversation yesterday, and she's like, I want to exercise, I want to be more mindful, I want to do so many things, I want to write, I want to just stretch, and I was like asking her, it sounds like you're trying to do too many things at once. What's the most important thing you want to do right now? And I asked her, do you want to, when you wake up in the morning, do you want to exercise or be more mindful? And she's like, I want to exercise. And I'm like, okay, then choose the exercise first. Why try to do two things? Because knowing her, she'll wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I want to exercise. How much time do I have left? Do I have time to exercise and be mindful? And then she'll spend like 20 minutes just trying to choose what to do as opposed to just doing something. So it was just like, just telling her, like, try to do something one at a time first and then build on those habits as you go. Like you said, just 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
I think from what you were saying, like, I think we just got to show ourselves more grace. Like, we're so hard on ourselves when we can't do something, right? So it's just doing that one step consistently every day until you can build it into a habit and give yourself credit if you do more than that.
And I want to unpack something you said there because it's so important. You said your partner, she spends time thinking about what she's going to do. Yeah. Thinking is the direct opposite of a habit. It's the it's the opposite end of the scale. So all behavior lives from highly thinking to automatic. So when you're doing a habit, it has to be designed ahead of time. So something I can do, I don't know, I can provide some resources at the end of this, like some downloads and stuff, so that you can have a look at what this looks like tiny habit recipe cards. Yeah. So you want to have, like usually a recipe will be like, after I will. So after I clean my teeth, I will do 2 wall press ups. You know, like it might be, or I'll dance on the spot. One of my favorite ones, and how I got more steps in my day, like for the last 3 years, I haven't done less than 13,000 steps a day, right? On average. And one of the ones I did this was, I've got a pitcher of water, you know, like a jug of water in the kitchen. After I pour myself a drink, I will dance on the spot for 30 seconds. So I just be like this. I remember being in an apartment somewhere once, and I look outside and all these people on the balcony watching me, and I'm like that. And it's just one way to get more steps and more movement. And you know how much laughter you can have by, if you're in your office workplace and you start just like busting out a move. Other times I'd turn the radio up and like just dance for 40 seconds, 40 minutes of my lunch break. I'll just like jam out and I'll be like full sweating and whatever. But I noticed my happiness mood changed. I noticed my step count went up. I noticed like it's about moving your body through the whole day. I noticed that it didn't matter how upset I got over something. I didn't have to think about what I was going to do, because you know, after this thing, I will do this. There's no thinking. There's no thinking in it. So for your partner, there's be like, I would suggest something like this. Anyone who says, the other thing was, wanting to get more fit or doing exercise is vague. It's around, behavior needs to be clear. Right. So there's aspirations. I want to be fit. What does fit look like? You have to have behavior actions designed. So on the weekend, you might write down all your aspirations. It's not bad. And then it's called, get really clear on them. It's called crispiness. You know, what exercise will I do and when? So you don't think about it. It might be as simple as downloading an app on your phone. So it's after I wake up, I will put my exercise clothes on. And after, then you don't, like, in terms of when you're learning habits, I'm not really a proponent of habit stacking, although James Clear is amazing and does talk about this. It would be the next thing is the most logical thing. I've turned my spare room into a little gym. So it's like, after for me, it's like I have a glass of water and feed the cat. I will go down with my phone and open my exercise app, and I don't think about any of the things I'm doing because I have a program ready to go. So it's got Monday through Friday, and so on the weekend it's a bit of planning, a one-time thing to think about the aspiration, the outcome, and what I'm going to do, and like think about implanting them for the week, setting them up. But during the weekdays I don't think about it. I just get up and I do it because it's pre-designed. And so if anyone's wanting to start that, like you said, focus on one thing, but then also know, you know, complexity and thinking is the like the enemy of habits. Just knowing ahead of time, and you can do that in like a little fun. I like to I call it funify it. I like to funify it on a weekend. So you can, if you want to. I mean, I don't know how old your listeners are. Like, a glass of wine and I get really creative, and I'm like kinesthetic, visual person, so I scribble everything down and work out what my week's gonna be like. The glass of wine and music on. And then, you know, dream big, and then pick a couple of things, set them up with my glass of wine for the week. And then I'm all ready to go. Roll Monday, there ain't no thinking, it's just doing.
So a glass of wine, is it a big sheet of paper?
Yeah, for me it is. So I like those books. Amazon have them, like the big A2 sized visual diaries, like $10 or something like that. I have lots in my office out there. I should open a cupboard and you'll be like, oh my God, are you a child? Like, I have lots of like pens and paper and pencils and stuff. In fact, when people bring their kids over to my house, I'm like, oh, I just pull out all this stuff and they're like, how do you have this? I'm like, because it's for me. I use this. This is like Saturday with a glass of wine strategy session. It's just like really high level strategy with my crayons.
I think like what you said, it's important to have fun with it. And
Fun.
Liv mentioned something in a podcast a while back, like just to remember the child in you.
Yeah.
And not taking life too seriously, right?
Yeah.
I think once we become an adult, like you get at a certain age, it's like, oh, I have so many responsibilities,
Yeah.
and you start to lose yourself, and life becomes mundane because of it.
Yep.
And yeah, like I just started because Lynn was asking me what's the habit I'm trying to build, and I want to get back into drawing.
Cool.
So what I did before, I had my I was bringing my iPad to work. Now I just have like a pad of paper and I just draw. Like it doesn't have to be good,
Yes.
because sometimes as me as an artist, like I want it to be like a beautiful drawing, but I've removed that out of my mindset because
Yep.
half the time I'm spending like 10 seconds or 10 minutes just looking at a blank page. Like, where do I start? And sometimes you just got to start.
Yep.
And, you know, crazy thing is, like, sometimes you start scribbling, and because of those scribbles, you can form something so beautiful, right?
I'm hearing that you're a recovering perfectionist.
Yes, I am. Like, you know, as a designer, like, we had this one of our designs that we spent so long on, one of our t-shirts, because I was just like not happy with it, and I was just constantly telling Gerald, like, what do I do? I feel like something's missing. And it's like, nah, it looks good, it looks good, but I'm just not happy with it because there's always that part of me that's missing. And we talked to another artist about it, and like, how do you know when a piece is like ready or when it's done?
You know, it's done.
And the honest truth is, sometimes like you just have to be like, I'm happy and satisfied with it. I don't need to touch it anymore, and just leave it. Leave it at that.
I went to Elam School of Fine Art in Auckland for a year. So my medium is black and white photography. You might notice down the hallway. So and I don't feel, I'm not skilled in other areas of art, but I found that the person who, you know, when you're trying to take a great photograph or you're trying to do art, if I said to you, who's going to be better, the person that gets up and just takes a picture a day, or the person who thinks about it and takes one for the year? You know, you've got a whole year to deliver this art installation. The person who takes a picture a day, and by the end of the year, how good are they going to be? Or the person who draws something every day versus it doesn't matter how good it is. It's just the art of doing and the art of seeing and being and you know, in that kind of creative space.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think there was, I think in Think and Grow Rich, there was this study, like they did, it was like a photography school. They had two groups. One group was like, all right, we're going to mark you based on one good photo. And then the second group was, we're going to base you on the quantity of photos you do.
Yeah.
And at the end of the testing period, they found that the people who took more photos had a higher grade than those who were like, I had one photo to submit.
It makes sense. It's kind of like working out. Like, you don't go to the gym one time and go, whoa, look at my guns. Look at my guns, man. It's like every day the micro tears and the recovery afterwards that go to build that. It's the same with our mindset. When something happens to us in our life and we go through the physical moments of learning how to heal, it's those daily practices that really do the healing. It's not like you go and you're like all of a sudden I'm just healed. No, it's like all the little self-care or mental, you know, resilient kind of work, resilience work that you do that helps.
Exactly.
So it takes you on that path.
But how about environments that are working against us?
Yeah.
So there's little devices in our pockets. They're designed to capture our attention.
Yep.
And they've got thousands of smart people working to capture our attentions. How do we overcome TikTok, for instance? And I know Liz TikToks into a spiral.
Yes. Yeah. So I can actually cover this off. I've done this coaching with people before. How do you, in terms of when you want to stop doing something or reduce something in your life, you have to make the behavior harder to do. So the only way to do that in terms of something in your pocket, I had someone that I was coaching, I was like, take your phone out now, delete them off your phone. So the rule is you watch TikTok only on your laptop. So, you know, like it's no longer on your phone, so it makes the behavior harder to do. There's more steps involved, right? And it brings awareness. So when you are in automatic mode and something ting bangs and you're like just mindlessly taking this out, and then you find yourself and you're like, oh my God, where did that come from? How long have I been doing this?
Yeah.
It's a habit loop, and you're totally unconscious. To break the habit loop, you have to make the behavior harder to do. You have to put an extra step in. So we're trying to do the opposite when we're forming habits and trying to make it seamless so that you don't become unaware that you're doing it. So in order to break that, you find all of a sudden you find yourself with your phone. You go, I'm looking for the app. Wow, something triggered it and I went to do it, but now it's not on my phone. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So then that person goes, guess what I'm doing now? And I said, you've got to open in a tab on your phone. Now that you've deleted the app off. I'm like, put a block inside some sort of, in terms of the tab on your phone. But even there, at least it brings, if you make a decision to go and do something, that's very different than finding yourself just coming present to mindlessly scrolling. It's a choice then, and it gives you your power back. So in terms of like, if you do have a social media addiction, deleting all the stuff off your phone and then just choosing to do it on a laptop or a device that maybe it's not even a laptop, maybe it's like only your fixed computer in your one office, and you give yourself a certain amount of time a day, you will continue to probably find yourself pulling your phone out and doing that. That's normal and natural because your body's the habit is still going to be running. It's just that you've made it harder for yourself to do it. And I think years ago there was this program, I used to have it called Freedom. It was an app, and it used to be able to block you from other apps. Then Apple made it like illegal, so they couldn't. Because obviously that they make money from these companies, so you can't use them. I don't know if there's anything at the moment that stops you from loading stuff, but I know on laptop devices you can have blocks at certain times of days for apps. That's another thing you can do. The key question is, how do I make this harder? If you're finding yourself overeating, it's hilarious. Like, I don't have a huge pantry, but I used to get up on a stool, climb up inside my pantry and put all the treats at the top. So if I found myself mindlessly going to the cupboard to pick up something, I'd find myself in the cupboard. I'm like, oh, they're up there, and then it's a choice. I've broken the loop. I've broken the behavior loop. So then now I get to choose whether I have that or not. So I stopped it from happening. And I've done this with loads of clients. One was overeating on bread, and I got him to pull it. He's like, oh, but the kids, I'm like, the kids will be fine. Do you think they'd just rather you achieve your goals? In fact, get them on the phone. I'll talk to them. Do you want dad to achieve their goal? And they're like, yeah, dad, you can move the bread. Like, obviously, they actually, it was like, that's just an excuse for them not to do that. The next time I saw him, so we caught up in 2 weeks, his face was noticeably thinner. I couldn't believe how much weight he lost from moving bread. Just changing the location, because the automatic, something would happen, and that's your prompt for the behavior to happen. He'd find himself on autopilot, going in, getting the stuff. Next thing he comes aware he's eating a sandwich. He's like, wow, how am I this? Where is this happening? Like, I have no memory of doing it. So if anytime that stuff happens, you want to make it so that you're interrupting it, and that's how you stop doing things. By the way, interrupting your pattern. And you don't have to do it. You can keep on doing that. Doesn't mean you don't have to eat sandwiches anymore. Just be aware of it and make it a choice.
So how long does it take to break a habit and to retrain your brain to, I guess, build the awareness? But once you do build the awareness, building the awareness of choice as well, that is when you do want to scroll or you do want to eat that bread, that you are doing it mindfully and with intention.
So it's really interesting, because at this point it could be that something's actually an addiction, not a habit. So and addiction's different. So you might actually have a social media addiction, and you might go through like physical kind of withdrawals because of the dopamine. That's your body is used to getting this dopamine hit, for example, from doing something on your phone and social media, and that's different. And I'm not qualified to unpack addiction. That is something that you'd go in, if you found yourself in that situation, then you'd seek some actual help with that, and you'd get someone who can actually help you with addiction. There can be eating addictions, as you know. There can be. So if you notice at this point you're trying to stop something and you're having real physiological, visceral reactions, and you'll notice in your body, then you'll want to get some professional help here. And that would be, so how long? Well, number one, is it actually an addiction, or is it a habit I'm trying to break? And then just being real brave and honest with yourself that it's okay if that has become an addiction. It's really common. And there are support out there, and there is help available, like knowing that, right? So I just thought I'd mention that, and not being ashamed about it if it's happened, because those companies are designed to create, you know, a lot of, I'm thinking about social media right now, and this is like an issue, and just not feeling alone, now knowing help is available. And then if it is a habit, it could take a long time and it could take a short time. There's an idea I like to have called swap it, don't stop it. Like, and so, you know, what's the behavior that you might like to do instead? So say, for example, we won't talk about social media. In my pantry, if we were to open it up, I had this real like cookie addiction for a while. I was like, oh my God, I just need to eat biscuits. So instead of that, I took them out. I was like, you know what? You can have a biscuit every day, but you're going to have a protein cookie. So, and so I just went and did some research, again, made it fun on the weekend. And then every single week I can have a different flavor. Like, you know, I made it this thing that I really like to do. Do they still taste like protein cookies? Yes, they do. They taste like protein cookies. Justine's protein cookies, by the way, they're the ones, they're the best ones. Free shipping on Catch.
Use my promo code.
Use my promo code, No, I don't have one. But they're my favourite ones at the moment. And I just was like, how can I add a nourishing behaviour in here where possible instead of the thing? So a lot of the time, when you're trying to stop doing something, replacing it is far easier. So, and when you find yourself, after I find myself going to mindlessly scroll on my phone, I will open up Headspace and do a, you know, mini meditation. So, and instead of doing that, so you still get the dopamine thing in your brain, but it might be that mindfulness behavior that, because you don't no longer have that app on your phone, you get to go do something and your brain's like, I like this, you know, and then figure out which ones it likes. And make it all playful. And if it's not that particular app, you know, if there's a skill you want to learn, Duolingo. You know, after I go looking for TikTok, I will open Duolingo and do a little, you know, 10-second lesson and reward myself by being like, you know, dancing on the spot or whatever it is, being like self high five. I got this. I totally got this. And making it fun. And then you replace it with something that you actually want and you like. And you feel really good about it. So that's something you can do. And honestly, I do this, and it is really fun. You're like, all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm speaking Spanish. Who knew? Like this, you know? Who knew that was possible? Yeah.
So all this thought, all of this training has come from BJ Fogg from Stanford.
Yeah.
But when we think of habits right now, we think of another guy, James Clear.
So the difference?
Yeah, the difference, as well as the rise in the meteorite word. I can't say it right now. Meteoric rise of James Clear. Where did he come from? And I guess BJ Fogg, how does he fit into this?
Okay. So James Clear is a marketer, and he unpacks why I like him. He unpacks the ideas of lots and lots of people who are researching habits. So you'll find a section in his book on BJ Fogg. BJ Fogg's a researcher at Stanford. So BJ Fogg has been researching behavior for more than 20 years. He founded the Stanford Design Lab. So everything he does, he works with companies all around the world. James Clear doesn't research himself. He's not the researcher, but he's really great at getting other people's ideas and making them so easy to understand. So outside of my bookshelf, you'll notice a whole bunch of different authors who have researched habits. A lot of times you open them up, like Charles Duhigg or Wendy, what's her last name? Forgetting it right now, but that's so bad. You'll read their books and you're almost like, oh, it's so dense, you know, and there's so much to unpack in there. I feel like James Clear has gone and got like the good juice out of all of these different researchers' works. And he's like, this is this person's idea, this is this person's idea, and here's how you can implement it. So he's been amazing at doing that, and I really think he's added so much value in terms of that. But did he go out and conduct the research? No. And that's where the people who like BJ might have, I'm not saying he does. I'm saying I don't know how it would feel to be a researcher and to have someone else like getting the credit for your work. But what I do know is if they ultimately care about changing people, as I know, for example, BJ does, then I don't think he, ultimately, if more people's lives get changed, that's why they came up with that work in the first place. So that's where I kind of see James Clear as like he's brilliant communicator, educator, and really unpacking those ideas and making them simple to understand. I think BJ does it really well. And if you haven't read Charles Duhigg's book's really good too.
What book's that?
The Power of Habit, I think is the title.
Oh, okay.
I'll double check the title name, but I believe that's the
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
So how is working with the man himself, BJ? Because you did direct training.
Yeah, with him and his sister Linda. They're amazing. They're an amazing family and team. Everything is, his energy is amazing. Yeah, and that's probably when I think about lightness, when bringing lightness to a heavy topic, he's the person that would come to mind.
Yeah,
for
okay.
sure, definitely. Yeah, him and his husband Dennis, they're so lovely. Yeah, they really are.
But you talk about this lightness, this playfulness, and having a boogie every so often as a habit, right? But at work, because we work together in the startup space, and you tell me about your involvement in the Startmate Fellowship and other programs like that.
Yeah.
I can see that you bring such a tenacity and such relentlessness to prospecting, to trying to make a sale, to getting demos and getting pen to paper.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How does this fit? Because it's two different things, but it's the beauty of
They're really
your
not
mix.
though. They're actually really not. When you are getting rejected constantly, like basically I'm like, sales is rejection. Constant rejection. Hey, you know what? Hey, do you really like constant rejection? You should be in sales. Like you are going to get more no's than yeses, and you need to have thick skin and tenacity. And so bringing the way that you get around that without the weight of the world feeling like it's going to seemingly collapse on you is by having the tools in your like mental toolkit to deal with rejection ongoing. And yeah, I don't know. I think probably anyone listening to this can think of a time when they've been rejected and they're like, "Oh, that was rough." I get rejected all day long, and they call it, and it's my job. Like, and some of those things I build playfulness and light energy habits around that, so I can shift my frame and immediately get back into state. Because I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna close any sales if I bring like desperation or the weight of the last rejection to the next one. You know. And some people are just downright mean or rude to you, in terms of sales when you're doing new business. I never understand it myself. I'm like, there's always a reason to be kind regardless. But in any case, I will just bring like a lot of things around. I think that's the solution to rejection is being able to reset and reset and reset again. And so at home, I have a rebounder in my office. A little like mini trampoline, if you don't know, out there. And so something you can do in terms of, not everyone's going to have one. They're actually not that expensive, but when you don't have to jump on it, you can just move your stuff around. It causes lymphatic drainage, right, in your body, and so your emotions move through. Have you ever seen a really angry person jump on a trampoline? It just doesn't happen. And so if you are like, there's the weight of the world on your shoulders, you just get on the trampoline. You're like, it doesn't matter how unhappy you are. But you're like, bring that. And so that's how this is what I'm doing all day long when I'm at home. Reset. Don't bring that energy into now, because it can weigh you down. So there are little tools. If you don't have a rebounder, another one, a skipping rope is great. It's not really hard to be an angry skipper as well. And you can get a good rope on Amazon for like delivered for $6. So I think it's something that everyone can afford. Little rebounders are a little bit more expensive, but if you have the money and the space for one, I love my life with a rebounder in it. Another great one to do is an I am incantation on it. Okay. Like, I am courageous. But you do it jumping around the rebounder, and it goes like viscerally into your body. It's crazy. If you might be going, what? That seems airy-fairy. Try it, and then see, experiment with that one. Whatever it is that you want to be, you say that, and it goes somewhere in your body through movement, and you start to show up as that. And I put my hand on my heart and can swear that when someone told me to do this, I was like, seriously. And then I did it, and I'm like, wow, this stuff works.
What identities do you attach yourself to, or do you say when you go, I am? Whatever
I need, whatever I'm focused on, like you said earlier, I want to buy a house, I want to be this. Who do I need to be to get the outcome that I'm after? Yeah. It's never going to be the right word is only going to be the right word for you in this moment right now that you're living in, or your outcomes that you want. So again, like another thing, having visual stimulus so that you remember. I can show you one that I've got in my office if you want. I go a little bit, you might notice me, I'm a little bit intense. But so when I do a vision board setting thing, I have a little Instax printer. Yeah. And I will get the little pictures of the things I want in my life, and I print them out on Polaroids, and I stick them on, and so I'll have like Polaroids of all the things to keep me present into the future I want to live in. And every time I've done this, I've achieved all of those things. So it was before I learned how to organize, I printed off, like home edit style photos, and I was like, I will live in the house that looks like this, and I do now. Because I learned the skills. And, it only took me a cheeky 2 years to like learn the skills, 2 years to learn to organize properly. It's not a one and done type thing, but 2 years of my life. And now it's part of who I am. So whatever the words are for the outcomes you're after is the answer. Yeah.
And so who inspires you? What inspires you? You've got this fire burning inside of you, and I can see it.
So I mentioned this before, but my dad died when I was 10, right? And it fundamentally shaped who I was, and the lesson I learned out of that was no day is promised to us, right? And of course it's awful. It's an awful thing to have happen to you, but we were talking earlier, and like I said, it's not what happens to you, it's what you make it mean and what you choose to do next. And so that particular thing of my dad dying, when you say who inspires me, well, that my dad, him passing on, I always think about what the life I want to have is, and all the adventures, and like just making every moment mean something. So it doesn't have to be someone, yes, Nelson Mandela too, but also my dad. And who else? Oprah. The fact that she had a pregnancy when she was 13 years old. The stuff that she's sexually assaulted, the stuff that woman has gone through. If you understand her, anyone who has had major challenges in their life, who has overcome them, especially against the odds. Those are the kinds of people that will inspire me, because I feel like we're all living some sort of version of this, and we often don't talk about it. We're all people end up having suffering or just real challenging times in their life, and being able to know what to do next and how to get through it, and not only just get through it but thrive afterwards because of it. Not thrive in spite, but thrive because. Of that thing. That's what I'm always looking for. Who's done that? And how can I have some of that in my life?
Say that again. Thrive in spite of.
Not thrive in spite, but thrive because of. So it's all those, truly believe this, that all those things, all the hard times that we've seen, all the challenges, the setbacks, they're sent so that we feel, we understand, we feel the good times, and they are the gifts in our life if we can learn how to make something great out of them. That's just the hard stuff. While we're in the moment, have a pity party, have a pity parade, get through it, but afterwards to look and say, how can I use this to create something amazing? That's where brilliant startups come from. You'll know this. Like, I'm coaching in the up-and-coming Startmate Women's Fellowship. And that's some of the stuff. All these startups don't come because, bad stuff didn't happen. They all come out of nearly trying to take something that's not working and make something great. It's all coming from exactly what I'm talking about. Pretty much, I think a lot of startups are in that space, right? The one I'm thinking of right now is Zero Co. They literally scrape the oceans for plastic, and that's what they make their packaging out of. So they do not, they source from the ocean. They source from rubbish in the ocean. They're solving two problems there. Yes, it's terrible that there's rubbish in the ocean, but they've found a way to make it into something great. I feel like if we all look for that in our lives, like life would just be like holding hands, singing campfire songs, and life would be so good. Do you remember that scene on The Simpsons where they were holding hands in Life Without Lawyers, and like,
But seeing the light, but having come from such darkness as well, and your father having passed when you were 10 years old, and having to deal with that, and you touched upon your accident as well, and how you had to relearn to walk to the mailbox and to get wins, and it took you 2 years?
2 years. I was 2 years off work. Again. 2 years off work for that. And it was a lot to overcome, because it was a sexual, like I said to you, a sexual assault component. And then there was my spine collapsed. I had a brain injury. I have a brain aneurysm now. So I, have to, for the rest of my life, will have to go and make sure that my brain is scanned to make sure that it doesn't get any bigger. And if it does, then there's a sequence. There are consequences from, and what, if I didn't share what happened, I was in Bali and my drink got spiked and I got abducted from a wedding. And I came off a motorcycle. And that was me getting away from that. And this could have happened anywhere. I do not hold this as a Bali thing. I don't even hold it against men because it was multiple men. As a male thing, it's just there's always going to be bad people no matter where you go somewhere in the world. And my question to myself afterwards was, how can I try and, not have that happen again? Because that is not the dream. But it was like unpacking each of those pieces separately and working on, resolving that completely. Yeah. So I like the words I used, so that I felt whole and complete again. Those were the things that I was looking for because I didn't feel that way when that was happening. And it took a long time. The stuff is everyday kind of stuff. I didn't look in a mirror for 9 months. That's mostly to do with the sexual assault component. Couldn't face that. My hair fell out. I put on 15 kilos. But I knew that was all really superficial stuff. What was actually mattered was the emotional stuff that was going on the inside. And I knew once that changed, then the physiological stuff would shift, and it totally did. And if anyone is in this position where they've had any of those things, again, this is where professional help, there are people who are trained in this. I picked someone to help me with sexual assault was the first thing I picked. If anyone's had that happen, I highly recommend you see someone. That was life-changing for me. And then the other things were a lot easier. I guess the physical stuff was doing the rehab work. I tried a whole lot of natural things. I was on 12 different medications when that happened because my whole spine, I've been dragged by my arm. My nerves just didn't stop shaking. I didn't stop shaking. I had PTSD. I would compulsively clean and lock windows, and it was not good. It was not a good thing. And I had to go on medication to try and help me stop with compulsions. I haven't been on medication since 2020 now. Wow. So 2019 was when I was deemed able to go back to work and stuff. That's when I started habits coaching. And 2020, I gradually, one by one, came off one medication at a time. And I haven't been on anything since 2020. To me, that was massive, being on 12 different things. And again, a big proponent on taking medication and doing imagine if you broke your leg and you're using crutches. I see medication like crutches, so you can do the work that you need to do to heal. And that's exactly what I did. And I take lots of supplements and things for well-being. But if anyone else is listening to this and they've had stuff happen, speaking to an expert who they've trained for years in that particular thing. And I kind of explained it to my girlfriend who was going through some hard stuff. I was like, therapists are like burger bars. And she's like, what? I'm like, well, they're usually really good and known for one burger, right? For one thing. Yeah. And you wouldn't be going to the place that's famous for its fish, asking for a steak burger, And I'm like, with therapists, you're not going to see the same person for all the things. Yeah. You're going to pick someone who's an expert at that thing. And then when that thing is resolved, for however long it takes, is how long it takes. Yeah. And it can be quick. It can be, because you don't know what's going to come up emotionally. You don't know if it might be stacked onto stuff that you've repressed from childhood. Because that happens. And then lovingly letting that go and moving on to the next thing and doing that one. Yeah. And that's what I did, and that worked for me. Yeah, and I was like that. I was like, I think I'm going to write that book. Therapists are like burger bars.
Thank you for sharing. Have you written any books? You sound.
I write, but I haven't written a book yet. I wouldn't mind doing. I like this author called Edward Monkton. Have you heard of him? No. It's they're like picture books for adults. So I wouldn't mind writing some picture books like this that are humorous with little lessons on how to get through. It might be like, this is the thing that's happening, and it's really fun and cutesy, with stories. So it keeps it light, but it actually has a helpful lesson in it. That's how I might be like that. When my girlfriend was this, she came to me, she's like, I don't know who else to talk to about this. How do I choose a therapist? Because her thought, she's like, I never even thought about I'm going to end up might be seeing 3 different or 4 different ones. I was like, not all at once, and it's not any more expensive. It's just get the specialty part from them and heal that part, and then move to the next one. So I saw a bunch of different types of people. And
so through your habits coaching, how through the demographics, did you get any young men like us? Under 30 or so?
Yeah,
Looking-
definitely. yeah, definitely. And like I said to you, I pretty much raised my two younger brothers. After my dad died, my mum went a bit nuts. And this is something I haven't said to you. She lost it. And I moved out of home at 16. She ended up with my stepdad was very violent. And she had my younger brothers. So we have different fathers. And she lost custody of them. She ended up in gangs, on drugs. She was in prison for 4 years. She went to prison for 4 years for whatever. My brothers went into foster care and then I had them. So we had a real tumultuous upbringing. You end up with the family you end up with, right? You don't get to choose it. And I felt my mum, the catalyst for her was my dad dying. She just lost it. It's really sad when that happens. So I have to help with my brothers mostly. It's not been habits coaching the whole time, but I was like, you can't choose. They're like, you can't be a victim in this. Well, you can totally. If you want to wear that hat, you can. But is that the life you want to live? Of all this stuff that's happened to you guys, it's rough. But at the end of the day, it's like, what are you going to make this mean and what are you going to do next? And you don't have to do it alone. You can do it with me. So finding those people, this slipping down, finding at least one or two people who are your tribe, who are your team, and, that it's a safe space to be yourself with. You could find someone that's a mentor, one-on-one that's available, and then really asking yourself, like, what can I make, if this rough stuff is happening to me in my life, how can I take this and make it into something good? And if it's happening to you right now, then getting help. In that moment, like you don't have to solve all your problems right at that moment. If they had happened to you right now, like I said to you earlier, I didn't solve all mine right in a minute.
of course.
There's always ups and downs. But in terms of, yes, I have younger men for sure. Mostly they've come into me for study skills and things, right? But then you end up unpacking that they haven't got a good home life, and that it's not study skills that are the problem. It's the fact that they can't get a minute. They're not allowed to shut their bedroom door, and they can't get a minute's silence with everyone, with all the violence and stuff that's happening, and this, I'm not going to say that these people are, but they don't get a minute to themselves. There might be drugs in the household, or there might be something. Study skills are the least of their problems. It's the fact that they're constantly being distracted and disrupted. So, but that's what they've come to me for. So it's interesting. And again, I'm like, this is when reaching out to someone, and I've talked about creating pockets of, and with whatever space you do have, creating a zone for an outcome that you want, and knowing that this is temporary in life and you can go on powerfully. Like, school is important because this is going to be what's going to help you get to the life that you want ultimately. And and creating little pockets where you can get activities done to focus on the life that you want. And again, like I use the rebounder and move through the energy, trying to find ways to move through the energy, so that when it feels like a whole lot of heaviness or the weight of the world coming down, that you've got the tools in your own arsenal that don't cost any money and that you can do right now. It might be going outside and taking your shoes off and standing in grass. It's a grounding exercise. Like you don't have to go anywhere from the house. If you live in an apartment, it might be just going out onto the balcony and screaming at the top of your lungs. That's one thing. It might be, I'm a big proponent, like I said, of moving, dancing. Just jiggling around your body, like putting on something. I'm always doing that. Imagine yourself as a GIF. and just moving the same, like up and down, that's all you have to do. Like, I'm a GIF. Like that. GIFs can teach us a lot, to be honest.
And look, my takeaways from this conversation today, look, setting up the time before your week to do that planning so that your Monday to Friday becomes automatic.
Definitely. So that's something that I think is not talked about enough. That habits, you want to do, there's like, habits are daily repeated behaviors, but there's also one-time behaviors that you need to do a lot of the time to set up for habits. So scheduling in, if you've scheduled the time to, like, you can chunk out, say, exercise or mindfulness or whatever it is during the week, having this creative play time as a one-time behavior on the weekend, whether it's on Saturday or Sunday, whatever suits your schedule, where you come up with, okay, what do I want to do this week? Your wish list, your shopping list of life. And then you can set up the environment, the little pockets in your home to get the activities done ahead of time. It might be the one-time behavior, might be, okay, I want to get healthy in terms of food. okay, well, I mean, I don't know in terms of if your listeners are buying their own food or not, but it might be, I love my muscle chef. It might be ordering your meal delivery for the whole week, for the whole coming week, so that when it comes time to prepare your meal, you're not wondering, or whatever meal service, they're already ordered, they're in your fridge. Yeah. You might do a subscription. The best ones are when you can do a one-time behavior that's a subscription, so that thing shows up. So then you don't have to even think about, oh my God, doing this every single week.
Yeah.
You know, that's super useful. And again, like it might be a fitness app on your phone if you want to exercise from home. And then ordering, if you need a couple of bits of weights or a mat or whatever it is, ordering that one time, setting things up ahead of time. If you think about people who do have, you know, if you ask someone who's a runner, or how do you do it? It's probably because they have running gear, their running shoes and a scheduled time. They know the route they're going to go on ahead of time. They've got their music set up. They've got their playlist done. So it might be getting all those things in the right spaces, you know, all ahead of time. If you want to do in terms of exercise, I try and take out the least amount of steps to get there, to try and remove all barriers that can get in the way. So I have my spare room turned into to exercise. So I just roll out of bed, and it doesn't matter how tired I am, I still do a workout, you know? And some of the things I do like about apps over the gym, when I tap on the exercise, if I've got like at the moment I've got something in my lower back, so there's certain exercises I can't do, you can usually tap on it and it'll give you an alternative. So you can literally swap out the exercise. So there's always, this is something I empower myself, I can do a version of this. I can do a version of this. So if I've got physical limitations right now, there's always going to be something I can do in this moment with the capacity and the abilities I have. And finding that.
Yeah. So taking that Saturday or Sunday out to plan and do that creative planning to... what was it? Curating your environment. And the one-time actions to set up the habits. But also being crispy.
Crispy.
As well. And I'm thinking just like crispy pork style.
Be crispy.
And being specific.
Right?
Specific.
So I'm going to give you some resources at the end of this, like some little exercise and stuff. The other thing is really thinking about anchors. I haven't really talked about this. So when you want to start a new behavior, you anchor it. The easiest way to do it is to anchor it onto something you always reliably do in your routine. This is the easiest way to get started. So it might be you're like, well, I don't really have a routine. I don't really do things. Well, do you go to sleep at night? Do you wake up in the morning? Yes. Okay. Do you clean your teeth? Please say yes. Please say you clean your teeth. There's little things like that. Do you pee? Do you pee? I'm sure you pee. So there's a few things. And please tell me you wash your hands. So like these are things that people they're already likely to do. And then you want to think about the frequency that you do them. So if you're anchoring on a new behavior, like after I pee, I will do 2 sit-ups. You might pee 15 times and you're like, well, that's a lot of sit-ups. Also, do I want to lie on the bathroom floor? You know, so, and do I want to do it at the workplace? So there's certain things that you have to think about logically, how often you'll do that and whether you're actually going to get down on the floor and do this. So a better one is after I dry my hands, I will do 2 wall press-ups, you know? And so each time you anchor it, you create a big picture in your mind of, you know, to do a post-it note of yourself hanging up the towel and then doing the 2 wall press-ups, and you can see it clearly happening. And the other thing to do in terms of if you want to ever get into habits and you don't want to be making notes or whatever, is it's called rehearsal. So ahead of time, you practice it 10 times in a row. So it's not like when it comes Monday morning, it's not the first time you're doing it. You've designed something, you know what you're going to do, and you've tried it out already. I've tried it on. Does that work? Does it feel logical? Like after I put my feet on the floor, I will say it's going to be a great day. You can lie on your bed, like throw the covers back, sit on the floor. Yeah, it's a great day. Lie in bed, back floor. Ooh, like it's like a gift. Like you are the gift, and that has your brain. When it comes time to do it on the Monday morning, you're more likely to do it because you've already tried it 10 times. So you just do it in one go. It's kind of like shooting hoops. It's exactly like that in terms of behavior. So thinking about those anchors and anchoring on a behavior there. If you want to get just you know, you're waking up tomorrow and you want to get started on something and you just want to add something in your day and you don't want to have any kind of formal routine, this is a really cool method. I've done it loads.
And the question is this the life that I want to live?
Right now.
And just answering that question.
Yeah. And what's the smallest thing I could do that I want to do? you know, and focusing only on the stuff you actually want to do. If you notice yourself going like this is a big sign you don't want to do it. If you notice your head doing that, if you notice your head going no, because your subconscious, you might be like, should I do that? If you notice you're doing this, your subconscious, it only has one way to tell you. It's by moving your body. So listening to those subtle cues, or if you notice your body starting to do anything weird, noticing that about yourself and going, ooh, that might be not the thing for me this time around. But what's something similar? You know, there's always going to be something that you can do and you want to do.
I think it's also like asking, is this gonna help me get to where I want to get to?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, is this changing the seed into different pots? Right?
Yeah.
Is it gonna get me to where I'm going to? Like, it's something I say to myself if I ever catch myself in any certain emotion or like doing something that I probably should be doing. Is like, is this action or is this feeling gonna help me get to where I want to? If it's not, then why am I gonna let myself stay there as well?
You know what? And just like having empathy for yourself. If you do find yourself doing something, not going, oh, you're so stupid, or, you know, all that self stuff we do to ourselves, treating yourself like your own best friend and having kindness and grace. Because it's really, I do it to myself still. This is an ongoing process of not reaming yourself a new one, like, you know, for like finding yourself doing something that's counterintuitive and just going, okay, cool, this totally isn't. And I'm so glad that I found myself doing this right now, you know, and like, I've got this, you know, every time you find yourself doing something that's against your goals, is one more time that you're aware, and one more time you're less like, you know, that you're more likely to get on that track. Yeah, definitely. So the self high five in those situations that you found yourself doing it and that you're recommitting. Yeah. Amazing.
And I think throughout this conversation, your self-talk is very powerful. So what are some phrases apart from I and I will and I can? Is there any other phrases that people can practice and use?
Goodness, let's have a think about that one. If you've got some thoughts, I am is the most powerful one in my opinion, because your identity, who you declare yourself to be, is the only thing that you'll show up as. Yeah. So I am is probably the most powerful statement you can make. Yeah. And in terms of, you know, when you said around a lot of these little behaviors, when you're doing a habit thing, doing 2 wall press ups isn't going to give you guns for the gym. Yeah. But what it does is it starts to get your identity related to someone who cares about well-being, and it's at a physiological level. So you start to shift your perception around yourself by doing, not thinking. So it's really powerful, because then you're like, I'm sprinkling exercise, I'm dancing at the jug, and I'm doing press-ups in the thing, I'm exercising all day long, I'm a fitness model, you know, like this, and you change this, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well maybe I will start going to the gym. Like if there are people who are at the point where they're like embarrassed about going to the gym, yet just doing these few things at home might be enough to shift to feel like I actually can do these workouts. I'm totally fine. I'm going to the gym now. Yeah. So it's a few of those like I am statements, but also like the reason to sprinkle little bits through your day is to change who you see yourself as, and that can be just as powerful, the doing, as the declaring.
Got to act yourself into thinking as opposed to thinking into
acting. Correct. And both. It's like this. It's like that cycle. It's like, you know, in our business would say it's like omni-channel.
I've left. Don't remind me.
Oh dear. Yeah, feedback loop. Yeah. I think this feeding down to that, and that feeding back to this is always where I'm going with stuff. Like, and I used to be so like disconnected from there downwards one set of behaviors and here up, and now it's very much that feedback loop. Yeah. It really does work.
Yeah. Definitely. Wow.
Beautiful. What an incredible conversation. And Jasper, 3 questions. 3 questions?
You want me to ask the 3 questions? So courtesy. Before we end the podcast, we have to ask 3 questions. So we'll go by them as you answer them.
Sure.
What are you grateful for?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm grateful for this conversation today. And right now oh my God, I'm so grateful for family. My family's in New Zealand and I miss them. I talked to my brother today and I just felt like, I needed to reconnect. Just having that, can't choose your family, but and I love mine to pieces. It probably sounded terrible, but I miss them so much, and I'm really grateful for family and for you guys coming here today.
We're very grateful to be here, and thank you for being vulnerable with us.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
Of course.
Second question: what have you realized
From this conversation?
from just anything?
In life.
Just in life.
Oh, goodness me.
Have you had any realizations lately?
Yeah, constantly. One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is just the level of how hard we are on ourselves. And that thing I said earlier, like, what if I could treat myself like I would do, not even my best friend, just like someone who's an acquaintance, like, you know what I mean? I realize, and so that's something I've been thinking about, because then and it's not a selfishness thing. The kind of person I show up for other people, it's just so much kinder too. So it's like a loop of, how do I be out there in the world being, your best self?
Yeah.
But it starts with how you're treating these thinking thoughts and how I'm treating myself. So that's something I've been thinking about in service of being who I want to be in the world. I need to start being kinder. Yeah. And how do I do that ongoing?
Definitely. I think it's something that's something I realized too, like we got to be more gracious to ourselves, and also like when you show grace to others, you don't know when you'll need that grace as well. So just being kind, like you said.
Yeah.
Final question: what is a question you ask yourself?
So I have this practice called like 6 impossible things. And I like to think about it comes from Alice in Wonderland, what are 6 impossible things before breakfast? Yeah. So I like to ask a question: what are impossible things that I could do right now? Like, what seems impossible, and write them down in a little journal, and just I don't think about it. I just see what comes out. So that is something, hopefully that answered the question, but it's just a really curious way, because then you ask yourself, well, what if it wasn't? What if it was possible? The question after that is, but what if these were possible? And is that something that you might want to focus on? I'm like, my unicorn business idea is going to come out. So next thing, you have a car. You have a car.
Don't forget me.
You have a car. The cat drives faster than a car. Yeah. So that's a practice. I'm like, that kind of gets around that whole fixed mindset, curiosity, playfulness in the morning. And it's just something fun. I quite like doing this. Yeah. But what if it was?
What if?
What if?
What ifs?
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I like that. It's like in any business or any pursuit, you're like, what if I was successful? What would that be like?
Yeah.
How would you feel?
Yeah.
Right? And it's just that feeling you kind of chase and run towards.
And not putting glass ceilings. Like, for me, it's all about, we just constantly put these limitations, and I think they feel it reality.
Yeah.
Because that's all that we can experience. So it's trying to work out where that's happening, because it's like, seems to be in a lot of places that I don't even realize half the time. And without the practice, I don't notice that stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Kirsty. Thanks
Kristy.
for having Kristy.
It's all right.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Kristy.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I apologize for that.
That's
Thank you, Kristy. We really appreciate you being on the podcast and sharing your insights and habits and being vulnerable with us. So thanks
for
so
having
much.
me.
No, thank
Thanks
you
for
so
having
much.
me.
All right. I guess that's it, man. Like, let's close it out. Peace.
Okiru.